Long before modern cities rose from the earth and before roads connected distant lands, there was a time when nature ruled over mankind. Deep within the heart of Africa stood a beautiful village surrounded by endless forests, rolling grasslands, and ancient trees that seemed to whisper secrets to the wind. The people of the village lived simple lives. They farmed the land, hunted in the forest, and respected the traditions passed down by their ancestors. But hidden beyond the familiar paths of the hunters was a mysterious part of the forest where few dared to enter. The elders often spoke of strange wonders that lived there, creatures blessed with wisdom, spirits that protected nature, and secrets that could change a person's destiny forever. Among the villagers lived a hunter named Kofi. Though hard-working and respected, he struggled to provide for his family during a season of hardship. Food was scarce, game was disappearing, and each day brought new worries. Desperate to change his fortune, Kofi made a decision that would lead him deep into the forbidden forest. What he discovered there would transform his life forever. A magical antelope with golden fur. A creature that could speak like a human. A friendship that would bring unimaginable blessings. But blessings can become burdens when the heart begins to crave more than it needs. As wealth flowed into Kofi's life, a dangerous hunger grew within him, a hunger not for food, but for power. Soon, he would face a choice that would determine not only his future but the fate of his entire village. This is the story of greed and gratitude, wisdom and foolishness, friendship and betrayal. This is the tale of the greedy hunter and the talking antelope. The greedy hunter and the talking antelope. The voice in the forest. Many years ago, in a small village surrounded by thick forests and wide grasslands, there lived a hunter named Kofi. The village was peaceful, but life was not easy. The people depended on farming, hunting, and the kindness of nature to survive. During good seasons, there was enough food for everyone. During bad seasons, hunger visited almost every home. Kofi was known as one of the strongest hunters in the village. He was tall, hard-working, and brave. His wife, Oma, often praised him for his determination. They had 2 young children who looked up to him and waited eagerly whenever he returned from hunting. But for many months, things had not been going well. The rains had become irregular. Animals were harder to find in the forest. Many hunters returned home with empty hands, and Kofi was no exception. One evening, Kofi entered his compound carrying only his bow and an empty hunting bag. His shoulders were heavy with disappointment. Oma looked at him and sighed. "No luck again?" she asked softly. Kofi shook his head. "The forest is changing. The animals are disappearing. I walked from sunrise until now and found nothing." His children looked at him with hungry eyes. Seeing their faces made his heart ache. That night, while everyone slept, Kofi remained awake outside his hut. He stared at the moon and wondered how he would provide for his family. The next morning, he made a decision. He would travel deeper into the forest than he had ever gone before. Many villagers feared the inner forest. Stories had been told for generations about mysterious creatures and ancient spirits that lived there. Most hunters avoided it completely. But Kofi had no choice. As the sun rose, he carried his bow and arrows and began his journey. The deeper he went, the stranger the forest became. The trees grew taller. Thick vines hung from branches like ropes. Strange birds sang songs he had never heard before. Hours passed. Sweat covered his body. Still, he found no game. Just as he was beginning to lose hope, he noticed movement among the trees. His heart jumped. Standing in a clearing was the most beautiful antelope he had ever seen. Its skin shimmered like gold beneath the sunlight. Its horns curved elegantly toward the sky. Even the grass around it seemed brighter. Kofi carefully reached for an arrow. This antelope alone could feed his family for weeks. Slowly, he raised his bow. Then something unbelievable happened. "Kofi, do not shoot." The hunter froze. His eyes widened. The voice had come from the antelope. For a moment, he wondered if hunger had made him mad. The antelope looked directly at him. "Please lower your bow." Kofi stumbled backward. You can talk." "Yes," the antelope replied calmly. Fear and confusion filled Kofi's heart. He had heard many stories from village elders, but he had never imagined he would encounter a talking animal. "What kind of spirit are you?" he asked. "I am neither evil nor dangerous," the antelope said. "I have watched your struggles. I know the burden you carry for your family." Kofi remained silent. The antelope continued. "If you spare my life, I will help you." Kofi laughed bitterly. "Help me? How can an antelope help a hungry man?" The creature stepped closer. Its eyes were kind and wise. "Trust me." For several moments, Kofi thought carefully. Part of him wanted to shoot. Another part felt that this encounter was special. Finally, he lowered his bow. The antelope smiled. "You have chosen kindness over desperation." The creature lowered its head and a small leather pouch appeared on the ground. Inside were strange seeds unlike any Kofi had ever seen. "Plant these beside your home," the antelope instructed. "Water them and tell no one where they came from." "That is all?" Kofi asked. "That is enough." Before Kofi could ask another question, the antelope disappeared into the forest. The hunter stood there speechless. When he returned home, Oma was surprised to see him carrying no meat. But he showed her the seeds. That evening, they planted them behind their hut. The next morning, Kofi stepped outside and nearly collapsed from shock. Huge green crops covered the entire area. The plants had grown overnight. Their leaves were rich and healthy. Their fruits were large and beautiful. Oma screamed with joy. The children danced around the garden. Within weeks, the family had more food than they could eat. Soon they began selling crops at the market. Money started flowing into their household. For the first time in many years, Kofi's family slept with full stomachs and hopeful hearts. Yet deep inside the forest, unseen eyes watched. The golden antelope knew this was only the beginning of Kofi's journey. And destiny was quietly preparing a test that would reveal the true condition of his heart. When gratitude turns to greed. The miracle transformed Kofi's life. Month after month, the magical crops continued producing harvests beyond imagination. People traveled from neighboring villages to buy food from him. His once simple hut became a large compound. He bought goats, sheep, and cattle. His children wore fine clothes. Oma no longer worried about where the next meal would come from. At first, Kofi remained grateful. Every few weeks, he returned to the forest to thank the talking antelope. The antelope always appeared and offered wise advice. "Remember, Kofi," it would say, "blessings are safest in the hands of a humble person." Kofi would nod respectfully. But as time passed, something began changing inside him. The praise from villagers affected him. People admired his wealth. They respected him. Some even envied him. Kofi slowly started enjoying the attention. One day, while sitting with wealthy traders, he overheard them discussing a distant king whose riches filled entire palaces. The conversation stayed in his mind. That night he lay awake thinking. "I have become rich," he whispered to himself. "But there are people richer than me." The thought troubled him. Soon, he wanted more. Whenever he visited the antelope, he began asking for greater blessings. The antelope helped him, but it noticed the change in his heart. One afternoon, Kofi asked, "Can you give me gold?" The antelope frowned. "Why do you need gold?" "To expand my business." The antelope remained silent before eventually helping him. Months later, Kofi became wealthier than anyone in his village. Yet he was still dissatisfied. His thoughts became consumed by money and power. One evening, he sat alone counting bags of gold. Suddenly, a dangerous idea entered his mind. If the antelope can do all these things, imagine what would happen if I controlled its power completely. The thought excited him. For days, he could think of nothing else. Eventually, greed overcame wisdom. Kofi decided to capture the antelope. Under the cover of darkness, he entered the forest carrying ropes, nets, and iron chains. He carefully set traps around the clearing where the antelope usually appeared. When everything was ready, he waited. Hours passed. Finally, the golden antelope emerged from the trees. It walked confidently toward him. The creature trusted him completely. Then disaster struck. The hidden trap snapped shut. Chains wrapped around the antelope. The animal fell to the ground. Its eyes filled with sadness. "Kofi," it said quietly, "what have you done?" For a moment, guilt touched the hunter's heart. But greed quickly silenced it. "I need your power," he replied. "You already have enough." "No. I want more." The antelope stared at him. Its voice became heavy with disappointment. "I helped you because of your kindness. Now you seek to imprison me because of greed." Kofi ignored the warning. "I will become the richest man in the world." The antelope closed its eyes. Then the earth began to shake. Thunder roared across the sky. Strong winds swept through the forest. Kofi stumbled backward in fear. The antelope spoke one final sentence. "When greed rules the heart, blessings become curses." The sky darkened immediately. And far away in the village, terrible changes had already begun. The price of greed. The curse spread quickly. Within days, rivers began drying up. Farm crops withered. Livestock became weak. The rich harvest that had made Kofi famous disappeared completely. The village fell into hardship. People became frightened. Children cried from hunger. The once green land turned brown and lifeless. Kofi watched helplessly as everything he had built collapsed around him. His stored food spoiled. His animals died. Even his gold seemed meaningless while people suffered. The villagers soon discovered what had happened. Word spread that Kofi had captured the magical antelope. Angry crowds gathered outside his compound. "You brought this disaster upon us," they shouted. For the first time in years, Kofi felt ashamed. That night, he could not sleep. He remembered the antelope's kindness. He remembered every warning he had ignored. Tears filled his eyes. The next morning, he returned to the forest. The antelope remained trapped. Its golden fur had lost some of its shine. Kofi fell to his knees. "Please forgive me." The antelope opened its eyes. "Do you truly understand your mistake?" "Yes." The creature studied him carefully. Then it spoke. "The curse can be broken, but it will not be easy." Hope returned to Kofi's heart. "What must I do?" The antelope explained that he must complete a dangerous journey. He would cross the desert of mirrors, where people were forced to face the truth about themselves. Then he would climb the mountain of spirits to seek wisdom from the ancestors. Finally, he would enter the cave of shadows and recover the sacred water. Without hesitation, Kofi accepted. For many weeks, he traveled through dangerous lands. In the desert of mirrors, he saw visions of his greed and selfishness. The experience filled him with regret. On the mountain of spirits, ancient voices taught him humility and compassion. Inside the cave of shadows, he faced terrifying creatures and overcame them through courage rather than violence. At last, he obtained the sacred water. Exhausted but determined, he returned to the village. The antelope greeted him one final time. "There is one last sacrifice," it said. "What is it?" "If you pour the sacred water upon the land, the curse will end. But all your wealth will disappear forever." Kofi looked toward his village. He saw hungry children. He saw worried parents. He saw suffering everywhere. The choice became easy. Without hesitation, he poured the sacred water across the dry earth. Immediately, rain clouds gathered. Heavy rain began falling. The rivers filled again. Green plants emerged from the soil. Life returned to the land. The villagers celebrated with joy. Kofi's wealth vanished exactly as the antelope had promised. But strangely, he felt happier than he had ever been. The golden antelope appeared one final time beneath the rainbow. "You have finally learned the greatest lesson." Kofi smiled. "What lesson is that?" The antelope replied softly. "True riches are not found in what we own. They are found in the lives we help." Then the magical creature disappeared forever. Kofi never saw it again. Though he remained an ordinary man for the rest of his life, he became the most respected person in the village. And whenever children asked about the great drought and the talking antelope, Kofi would tell them his story. A story about greed, gratitude, and the wisdom that comes when a person learns to put others before himself. The end.